Could a Skarsgard be our new Swamp Thing? We got new trailers for Secret Invasion, along with a twist on a Frankenstein story with Poor Things, a new Nick Cage movie where he's getting to be his unhinged self with Sympathy for the Devil. Why is Oppenheimer and Barbie pissing off Tom Cruise? And we give our full review of Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Welcome to the madness. We are back with another episode of Monday Madness. Sorry if you missed us last week. Morgan was doing some fun things, but we are back. Hey Morgan, how are you doing? How is everybody doing?
No, I'm okay. Yes, I'm just about recovered from what I
Yes.
was doing last week, as I was in a completely different country attending a wedding.
Looked very nice. It looked like you
yes,
had a very good time.
for 5 days over the last weekend. So unfortunately, it meant we couldn't do an episode of Monday Madness, which is why I suppose our main review for today, as Jeannine nicely introduced there, will be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, even though that's movie
Not
was
this
last week.
weekend's big release. The big release was the Transformers movie, the new movie. But Morgan is
Nobody
not very
cares.
well.
Nobody cares about that.
I mean, you don't care about
I
that.
certainly don't care.
I'm led to believe this is more in the vein of Bumblebee. People are saying it's enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. It definitely veers closer to Bumblebee than Michael Bay's movies. So I'm inclined to check it out and maybe do an independent review, as you are not familiar with this series or franchise at all.
No, I'm not.
But
No.
yes, it is why we are not doing a big Transformers review, and we are taking our chance now that Morgan is back to talk about this amazing movie that was Across the Spider-Verse today. But before we get into all of that, we have some other fun things to discuss.
I mean,
So
we
Morgan.
certainly do. But you are right in saying it would have felt silly,
Yeah.
having missed last week, that meant we had to miss talking about a movie like Across the Spider-Verse
Yes.
at all, because of how great Into the Spider-Verse was and how positive everybody's reaction to this movie was before we saw it.
Yeah.
So it would have felt just ridiculous, really, to not talk about that movie, just because I wasn't available to record a thing or to edit a thing or to do any sort of shows at all last weekend. And we obviously keep this show topical, which is why sometimes we have to miss weeks, because when we are particularly busy, we're unable to record at that particular time, and things go out of date, don't they? You know, you can't really watch an episode of Monday Madness from, say, 2 months ago now and it feel the same as it did 2 months ago, because
that's why we have a hard time talking about shows that have like a Sunday release, because obviously we kind of have to record the show before that. So we always have a hard time reviewing shows if we want to talk about them on this show without those ending up feeling topical, because we can't watch them and discuss them based on when they come out. So there's a lot of things in the balance of when we can talk about certain things, but we try to do our best, and we definitely did not want to miss out talking about this movie because it was great. So
no, certainly not. Oh, I might give a little bit of a shout out to a particular television show, by the way, just a little one, during today's show. But yes, I think we'll crack straight on.
Yes.
You are Valerie the Librarian today. I am Spider-Man Noir. That's for Spider-Verse reasons, of course.
Yes.
But I will ask the question. So, Jeannine.
So we do have some things up today, Morgan. There has been some casting potential news, which we do like to discuss here, of a Skarsgård, the creepiest of the Skarsgårds, as this is.
The busiest of the Skarsgårds is as well.
Yes, potentially playing a Swamp Thing.
Now, does this make sense? I suppose a little bit. It certainly doesn't excite me as much as his Nosferatu in Robert Eggers' Nosferatu does.
Yes.
Because really, Bill Skarsgård does look like a vampire. Does he look like a huge swamp monster? No, he needs to. He needs to be his brother Alex.
Yes,
If
I
you're
mean, I don't
going
think
for
he
that,
has yeah, he doesn't have the stature for a Swamp Thing, but we've seen him been able to transform and invoke a performance through a ton of makeup. I mean, just with his eyes alone, he was really
definitely.
able to tap into some freaky shit with Pennywise. So, I think in terms of being able to invoke a character, he is perfect. But just knowing like the big hulkingness that is the Swamp Thing, will that be able to be portrayed without a ton of heavily CGI'd elements?
And really, Swamp Thing ultimately has to be sympathetic as a
Yeah.
character. I don't think Bill Skarsgård. I just think he's inherently fixed into "I'm terrified of you" mode.
Well, I feel like with things like, Barbarian, he was
I
able
mean,
to
that's a
kind of
good
show
point.
you the disarming range of him,
It's a good
that,
point.
he is able to play someone who you find yourself attracted to, but hesitant to get to know, and then ultimately being a good person. So, um,
It's a very good point. Yes, I had
he
temporarily forgotten about Barbarian,
yes,
which
so
I
while
shouldn't
we
have done
have
because
seen
it's a
him
good
play
movie.
creepy figures and villains, I mean, even most recently in John Wick Chapter 4, um,
Yeah,
he shows us in something like Barbarian that he can be a sympathetic, kind, uh, attracting character, so
I think. I mean, I think it's probably a good sign that maybe he's being looked at from a sense of understanding maybe what that Swamp Thing is going to be and look like.
yeah,
Because I think if they're going for somebody like Bill Skarsgård, you aren't going to want to over CG everything.
yeah,
Um, because you know how good he has been practical, with prosthetics, with practical makeup, with heavy practical makeup. You know he doesn't mind that. You know he doesn't mind not, being um someone who you can't necessarily tell it's them. He
yeah,
doesn't mind that. He doesn't care about that sort of thing. Um, so I like it from that standpoint.
yeah,
Um, I would need to hear more about Swamp Thing, to be perfectly honest with you, to before I'm like, I mean, I'm interested in it anyway. Of course, I am. But if I hear more about the direction they're going with it, and then
yeah,
it's maybe confirmed that Bill Skarsgård is, and this is only a rumor, this is only a potential from what we're getting at the moment,
yeah,
then I'd be more into it if those things align. But if you're going off pure looks, like I said, his brother is more suitable, I think, for playing a larger creature
yeah,
than he is. He is, Bill's more of a thin, sticky kind of person, and
yes,
Alexander tends to be a large, kind of brutish person.
yeah,
Which Swamp Thing, maybe a mix of both. Maybe a mix of both. Maybe you pluck some other Skarsgård from somewhere, and we've got a secret brother. He's
yeah,
called
maybe.
Olaf Skarsgård, and
Olaf,
he's
okay.
going. That's a Scandinavian name. That was potential cultural appropriation there. Um, he could play Swamp Thing instead. I don't
Okay.
know. I'm kind of half into it when I
Yeah,
think
I
about it.
could see it. I could definitely see that in terms of what the character is supposed to convey, the sense of, sympathy and all that, so, um, yeah, I don't mind that potential casting thought, but that also got me thinking about something else, so, in ter that I didn't mention at the top of the show, some other news that recently came out, just thinking about Bill Skarsgård, and then and then Andy Muschietti, and just the news that there are talks of not ejecting Ezra Miller from potentially continuing the role of the Flash.
It's a
So
terrible idea.
yeah, so
It is a
I think a
it is
lot
a
of people's
public relations terrible idea.
Yeah, so in terms of kind of the consensus of people going to see this movie, it was generally thought of that, okay, well, they had this movie, it was too deep in to recast or reshoot, so we're just gonna, continue out this film with this actor, and then I'm sure they'll be done with him. They're not gonna want the headache of their behavior and all of the issues with them and all of this stuff. And we'll just move forward. But now there's news that there are no plans to not continue a working relationship with Ezra Miller. So
However, there is
yeah,
no plans directly
for
involving the Flash that we know
yeah.
going forward with James Gunn, obviously. Now, of
Yeah,
course,
so
that is this coming weekend's
yeah.
big movie. It is a movie that neither of us particularly want to see for unfortunate reasons.
Yes, but, I am so excited about the Michael Keaton of it all that, I don't wanna miss seeing him, reprise that character because
Yeah.
he's my favorite Batman. Batman Returns is my favorite Batman movie. Um, so, yeah, it's a difficult thing to, support this movie by going to see it, but also, there are elements of it that I am excited for, and, so it's kind of this really hard push and pull. And I was also kind of quelled by that idea and concept that, well, potentially they're not gonna work with Ezra Miller again. This is the last we're going to see of this version of the character. So,
Yeah.
done and done. But the fact that they're not, completely writing off the idea of them coming back is kind of disappointing. So and
I
I don't
just
know
say that
if
because
yeah,
I
I don't know
don't
if this
know what, next week's show is going to look like, for example, because
yes.
I genuinely kind of don't want to go and see this movie, even though there are, like you say, elements of it that I would otherwise be very, very interested in watching.
Yeah,
Really,
so
really excited to watch. Why don't I want to go and watch this movie? Well, because of the reasons that we have talked about, that have been talked about
yeah.
several times for months and months now. It's and it would all be forgotten with a simple sit down statement, a simple sit
Yeah,
down
the fact that we don't get
explanation.
we just get this quick written explanation. They're still gonna be at the premiere. I believe they're not going to be doing any interviews or talking to anyone. They're just gonna walk the red carpet. Um, and that's how they plan to handle that whole situation. But yeah, I don't feel like, you know, there's always that kind of thought process of, you want a celebrity to apologize for their wrongdoings, but then when they do, their apology's not good enough. So what do you want from them in this whole thing? I feel like for the series of events that have transpired with this person, quick written apology, potentially not even written by them, is not sufficient.
No, it's something that needs to
Or
feel genuine.
wholly genuine, yes. And I think that would, you know, be a step towards, some respect for this person. So,
Well, if that look, if that comes about, and there ends up being a genuine apology, then I have no issue in the future watching that movie.
yeah.
I would be saying, okay, thank you for doing that. I can actually now within myself accept that I'm watching this movie in good conscience and it being a movie that I would be excited to watch anyway.
Yes, because I mean, I'm gonna be
Which
honest and say that yeah.
you might be coming at me saying, well, if you're excited to watch it, just go and watch it. I've made my choice. I'm not going to
And
go
I
back on that now.
I respect your conflict and I respect your choice. For me personally, I'm gonna be honest and say that I am conflicted. I do really wanna see it. I'm still kind of on the fence and debating on seeing it, so I haven't, like, fully decided to go see it yet. I had planned to kind of go take this week to watch those movies and, like, watch, kind of do
Yeah.
what I would normally do, watch the Burton Batman film, watch, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Justice League and all of that to kind of gear up and get my head in that space for these characters in the story. Um, and so I kind of was like, well, let me do that and then see how I'm feeling after that whole kind of big watch. So I haven't started that yet. So, that's kind of what was my plan. So how will I feel by the end of this watch? Am I going to give this movie, you know, a chance and go see it, or just leave it be? So I'm going to be honest and say that I am on the fence. Like, I get why people won't go see it, and I understand that potentially supporting this movie is going to show these producers and studios and all of these things that, this movie was successful. So let's keep this actor and continue doing more things with him because this movie was so successful. So I'm taking all that into consideration. So I personally, at this moment, am on the fence on whether I'm going to see it, because I would love for us to do it for this, next Monday and talk about it and all of that. But
Yeah.
I
And
understand if that doesn't
honestly,
happen, I
let me tell
can
you this
understand
now. Let me tell you this now. If something comes out this week, and if this week, and Ezra Miller has a whole genuine, understandable sit down and explanation of what they've been going through, what they're dealing with, how they're bettering themselves, and genuinely apologizing for actual violent behavior on several accounts
that. Yeah.
that has been swept under the carpet, seemingly. If we actually are honest about that, present it and say, yeah, accept, and this is what I'm doing, apologize. We did this movie. I'm very proud of this movie.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the past, and I pledge to improve myself. Then if that happens on Thursday, I'll probably go and see the movie on Friday. It's literally that easy for me.
Yeah.
I'm not on some sort of crusade.
Yeah.
It's
Because I mean,
literally that easy for me.
I am literally someone who, I've said this before, I'm in favor of accountability culture over cancel culture. Like,
Yeah,
if someone can, uh, c-
I don't want to see the back of Ezra Miller. I want Ezra Miller to accept.
what they've done, and express, uh, you know, the issues that come with that, and
Because
you
it's
know,
nothing that needs to be it's nothing that needs to be. It's not serious enough to be thrown in prison forever. Like some of the really horrendous people that have
yeah.
been in Hollywood. It's
It's
not
something it's
that.
something that
It's
needs to be
just,
acknowledged, and something to be, aware of in them, and something that they are willing to work on.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's it. Let's not get too deeper into that, because we do have
yeah,
other things we do want to talk about. But honestly, that is where I am. That comes out, and I will watch that movie. Easy as that.
okay.
Not that anybody's clamoring for me to watch that movie. I am clamoring for me to watch that movie in my own good conscience.
Yeah,
That's it, really. And we all make our decisions, and we don't
yeah,
fall out over it. It doesn't matter.
yeah,
You might see a solo Jeannine review of The Flash next
maybe.
week.
We'll
You
see,
might
we'll
very
see.
well do that, and
After
it
my
doesn't
big whole
matter.
binge watch of things, I'll see kind of how I feel at the end of that, but
Does it make me want to stop watching, even say Snyder's Justice League? No, it doesn't. It's the whole build up into this movie
yeah,
where my issue lies. It doesn't make me not want to go and watch movies featuring that person that they've already made.
yeah,
It's a unique situation.
yeah,
It's a singular situation. But yes, let's talk about other things, please.
Okay. So we did get some new trailers. We finally got an official trailer for the Secret Invasion show that's coming on Disney Plus with the Skrulls. So we have gotten some teases of Skrulls. We have it started with Captain Marvel, and that whole relationship has continued with Nick Fury being in space. So I'm really curious to see, why he was up there so long, what he's doing up there. I think the Marvels will also kind of explain more of that, and the kind of shield adjacent space agency sword, and get into all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see like why he went up there, what he was looking for, and how kind of the events of everything that he was in charge of are leading now to this scroll takeover situation. So I'm led to believe, I'm sure, since we got a lot of the scroll stuff in Captain Marvel, it'll be kind of stemming from that, and how those events then kind of branched off other things. And there's seemingly good scrolls and bad scrolls, so how is that going to play out? And so
It
I'm
looks
really
pretty
intrigued.
significant though, doesn't it? I
Yes.
mean, we were led to believe from teases of this limited series. It is only a limited series as well. It's 6 episodes. It's
Yeah.
shorter than anything else I think we've gotten in terms of a TV show from the MCU.
Yeah.
I don't think anything has been 6 episodes. I think they've all been longer.
Yeah.
Um, I suppose that makes it feel more like a significant event. I mean, we've not seen Nick Fury directly in a good few years,
Yeah.
canonically, in the MCU.
Yes, so I'm excited to see him, like, also just generally, I'm, like, excited to see some of our Black superheroes get some stuff to do, and Nick Fury and Rhodey as well. And we're getting some great actors in there. Olivia Colman gonna be in the show, Emilia Clarke. Um,
Yeah.
so I think we're getting a lot of good coming out of this show, not just story-wise, but, like, new actors. I always love when new actors that you probably wouldn't expect to see in the MCU join the MCU, and
I
I
mean,
think that's
particularly
what.
someone I think like Olivia Colman. It just
Yes,
seems to be.
and for me, that's what elevates these movies to more than just, big blockbuster gibberish and nonsense. Having big actors come into these roles and really do something interesting with it really adds to the stories and the fabrics of these characters, that make them more than just kind of what your snooty faluty uh film
Well,
directors say about these movies. I think I get where they're coming from, but I think if you really look at certain aspects of the MCU, they've been able to craft really great, deep character studies and moments and really good stories, and not just blockbuster boom boom explosion fodder.
I
So
mean, it's been like that for an awfully long time, not just in the MCU, but in terms of this, that particular genre of movies, the superhero movie, the comic book movie. It's really been often unfairly thought of as just simplistic and, oh, don't do a superhero movie, you're killing your career doing that kind of
yeah,
drivel. And it's
yeah,
it's it's never there has obviously been some really trash bag superhero movies, there
yes.
has,
I
but
mean, we're in the middle of talking about some. One
there's
Morgan hasn't seen,
always
but
been great ones
yeah,
from the real very beginning of superhero movies. I mean, okay, Batman 66 can be its own weird thing if you're talking feature, cinematic,
yeah,
um, released superhero movies. So I suppose you have to go from that. But if you go from Superman, Christopher Reeve's Superman, what on earth about Christopher Reeve's Superman is not entirely genuine, wonderful, heartfelt, deep storytelling?
yes. So that's what I'm
And
kind of
that's from the
saying.
very
Like,
beginning.
So that's kind of my point. Like when you see kind of big actors, Oscar winners kind of join the MCU, um, it's one of those cues that remind people that the MCU is not just about, fluff. They actually are telling these really interesting character stories. So this movie
Yeah.
definitely looks like, or this show definitely looks like it's going to delve into some deeper things, and we're going to get to know Nick Fury a little bit more. Because even, he's been at kind of arm's length for us, and we haven't really gotten into anything deeper with him. He's kind of just been this man in charge of stuff. And so hopefully this will delve more into him. We're seeing him very much exposed. He doesn't even have his eye patch for a lot of it. So, you know, seeing him have to
Yeah.
really deal with a mess and deal with a serious situation, and it looks like a lot of the blame is on him for the events that are going to be happening. And so to see how he handles the situation, who's going to kind of be backing him and supporting him, who's going to be against him, I'm really excited to see that. It looks like there's going to be some tension between him and Maria, his kind of right hand person, that she feels like maybe
Yes.
abandoned by him. She was his number one, and now you know she's asking him, calling him for help, and he just kind of is ignoring her. So that whole relationship, and um, yeah, so a lot of good things I think are going to be coming out of the show. Because I mean, I loved people. I don't think this was many people's favorite of the Disney Plus shows, but I really liked the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like I liked the character
Oh,
things
yeah.
that came out of the cultural, the commentary on certain things that came out of that show, the performances, and highlighting characters that we didn't really get to know a lot about in the movies. And I feel like this show's definitely going to be very similar to that, to get deeper into Rhodey and get deeper into Nick Fury. Yeah,
It's certainly gonna be the closest in tone, I think, to Falcon and the Winter Soldier since that show.
yeah,
Politically, I think it's gonna be pretty significant because you are going to
um,
have a lot of political play going on here, a lot of
yeah,
trust things, a lot of deception, a lot
yeah,
of kind of figuring out who not only from a simple standpoint of who real people are and who Skrulls impersonating real people are,
yeah,
but exactly how deep those lines go, exactly how kind of exactly how large the web is.
yeah,
You're really gonna have to get into that. It's gonna be very, very interesting. Like you said, it's gonna be interesting getting deeper into Nick Fury in particular, but like you
yeah.
said, deeper into Rhodey as well, who whether 84-year-old Don Cheadle is going to be
Leave Don
donning the
Cheadle
suit
alone.
anymore. Don
Well,
Cheadle is a wonderful man, and I do
well,
enjoy
we
Don
see
Cheadle.
him in the suit in the show, so he's going to be.
He's just so much older than you think he is.
Yes, well, that's black don't crack, homie.
But
Black don't
So
crack.
is Samuel Jackson. To be fair, he's
Yes.
late 70s now, isn't he? His
Yeah,
mid
I mean, he's
70s.
somebody who started his acting career, like, in his 40s, so
I know it's
yeah,
insane, but
yes.
yeah, um, it's it's going to be interesting. I am very much looking forward to it,
Yeah,
and it's taking that serious approach, but I think it's
yeah.
still going to allow itself to be not necessarily fun, but certainly thrilling, certainly kind of
Yeah, and I
exciting.
yes, and I know you kind of mentioned we haven't seen Sam Jackson in a while, and in general, like, I don't think we've seen him do anything really deep or serious in a long time. I think he's done, like, more recently kind of comedy things, if we've seen him in anything, those
Yeah,
Hitman
that's true.
Bodyguard movies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So to see him kind of tackle something more serious, and, action kind of politically, driven, I'm really excited to see.
it's gonna be fun. I
Yeah.
think it's gonna be a really good show.
Yes.
Um, it's not the only trailer we got though, because we do have two movie trailers. One little teaser for Yorgos Lanthimos' upcoming movie called Poor Things with
Yeah.
Emma Stone and Willem Dafoe. That
Yeah.
seems to be a bit of a sci-fi romance, a little bit Frankensteiny in the sense that Emma Stone appears to be being brought back to life by a disfigured Willem Dafoe,
Yes. And
and I'm into the weirdness of it.
yes, it definitely looks odd. Looks like there's going to be some kind of macabre style comedy happening here, so it's not gonna be wholly dark and serious. It has a very gothic feeling, like a old-timey science, like the early days of scientific machinery and things like that,
Yeah,
which I
which
think
is
is
where
a
the
really
kind of
cool vibe.
Frankenstein
Yeah.
elements come in.
Yes, so it looks like a lot of fun. Specifically just wanted to at least even mention the 2 other trailers that we're gonna talk about because I feel like maybe they're movies that people don't know about or aren't really talking about or aren't gonna be like these huge things. So I do like to also talk about smaller trailers and things like that for movies that maybe people,
Yeah.
um, you know, aren't talking about or would have seen rightly,
Well,
right out there,
I, th-
so
I think Yorgos Lanthimos is a director that people have their eyes on.
yeah.
And when he brings out a new movie, people are interested. People are looking
Yeah.
out for that. People are excited about that. I don't profess to be the biggest viewer of Lanthimos. I really kind of need to delve into him, and
Yeah.
because I know that he's a very popular, probably very important name in movies of this particular era. Aside from your massive movies, Lanthimos and his 2010s are probably an era that's going to be a future high quality Blu-ray set,
Yeah.
for example, or something
Yeah.
like that, of just the weird, the lobster and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's just unusual and so
Yes, I remember
unbelievably
being
original and
yes,
clever and
and I remember
so
being really
intelligent.
surprised by something like The Lobster. I was like, "What is this movie?" But I really got into it and appreciated it for being this weird, interesting, quirky, dark, but comedic thing, and so, yeah, the tone of that I'm seeing in this movie, so I'm
Yeah,
really interested. I'm really interested in
I,
this.
I I'm interested in it. I'm gonna have to do a good deep dive into Lanthimos, I think, before
Yeah.
this movie and watch his movies because I should do. He
I'm also
deserves that.
curious curious about Ruffalo. He doesn't seem to be one of those actors that fits into an old-timey kind of time period, but
Well, you say that, but I like Ruffalo in Shutter Island, and
okay,
that was set in the 30s, I think,
yeah.
or the
But I don't
50s.
know, it sounded like maybe he's gonna be doing a bit of a put on, kind of proper type
But
thing. No.
I don't think I mind
And
that. I trust
I mean,
I
if
trust
because even in the
them.
moment in the trailer, in the teaser where that happens, it's played seemingly for comedy. So, you
You're not
know.
wrong. You're not wrong. But I like Ruffalo. I
Yeah, I'm
trust
not saying
that
I
they're
don't
all
want him
doing a
in this
good job
movie.
here.
I want to see him because I just inherently can't picture him in that time period.
I think he's a
So
better
I want
actor
this
than
movie
people give him
to
credit for,
present
you
him in
know.
that way for me, and I'm not saying he's a bad actor. I'm
No, I
not
know
saying
that. I just think he is a better actor than people give him credit for.
yeah, he's also
I'm not saying
clairvoyant.
you do. I'm not saying you do at all.
He's
Um,
also clairvoyant. This story has been going around about him, I think in his
he's
20s or something.
clairvoyant.
Been this story that he's been telling in interviews that's been going around where he had this very vivid dream
Oh God.
that he had a tumor behind his ear.
Okay.
And he went so he just out of this dream feeling so real to him, he went to the doctor and said, "I know nothing's showing this, but I just had this really vivid dream telling me that I had a tumor behind my ear and it could be a deadly tumor and all of this. So, can you just do a check? Can you just look?" And sure enough, he had a tumor behind the ear in that was in his dream and everything, and had they not removed it, like, it would've probably caused, like, paralysis to his face and, like, messed up his whole acting career, so
Right. So was this actually a dream, or did he just discover this slightly strange and unusual lump
no,
and
he didn't have
thought
a lump or
to go and
anything, he just had a dream that he had a tumor, like a brain tumor or something, in above his right ear, like, or left ear, whatever it was. So he
Well,
had
let's
a
all go to Mark Ruffalo to tell our
yes,
futures then.
just dream about, what's going to happen to
Yeah,
us. And sure enough,
that
it was
what a
the same side of his head. It was all of the things that was in the
terrifying
dream.
reality.
Yes, and had he not caught it, it probably would have caused, like, paralysis to half of his face, and he obviously you're an actor, like, kinda need
That's
your
not nice.
face.
That's horrible.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
well done to Mark Ruffalo's subconscious for
yeah.
telling him that.
Yes.
Let's all go there and discover what's going to be in for ourselves
Yes.
later on in life. That's very unusual. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
You've taken me aback with that.
Mhm.
Um, Another trailer we do have, though, is for a movie called Sympathy for the Devil with Nicolas
Yes.
Cage and
Joel
Joel
Kinnaman.
Kinnaman. This
Yes.
looks like it might be actually Nicolas Cage playing the devil, although it's not quite made clear if it's actually
Yeah,
the
in this
devil or
trailer.
not.
Yeah.
It might just be a weird guy, but Nicolas Cage uh, basically is a carjacker by the looks of
Yeah.
it, who jumps into Joel Kinnaman's car when he's on the way to the hospital to watch the birth of his child,
Yeah.
and Nick Cage has him drive around doing crazy things because it's Nick
Yes.
Cage.
So it's very much kind of feeling like collateral a little bit in that kind of relationship that's going to come out of these two being stuck together. All these little moments of Joel Kinnaman trying to like signal for help, and is Nick Cage going to
Yeah,
catch him trying to signal for help, and how that. So I love movies like that when you're kind of focused on just two characters and circumstance, and it builds to a bunch of really tense moments. So I love these kind of movies that take place in a bigger world, but still feel very isolated because you're focused on kind of what is sparking between these two characters in a very antagonistic way. So like generally, Nick Cage, it very much feels like 90s Nick Cage. Like, I feel like in all of the modern, newer movies he's been doing since he's kind of come back to acting, he still always had that essence of just kind of over the top craziness. But this really feels like true to form, like a true embodiment of all of the things that he kind of became known for in his earlier career.
yeah.
Um, so
It's manic. It feels manic. It feels crazy without being. Oh, it's Nick Cage doing Nick Cage.
yes.
It feels
It feels very much
not.
like, Castor Troy in terms of being villainous, but also having, like, the best time ever, you know?
Yeah, not like it's more toned down,
Yeah,
but it feels like he's almost taking his crazy performance seriously rather than
yeah,
taking his crazy performance as, oh, they just want a crazy Nick Cage performance, so that's what I'm going
what
to
I'm gonna
give them.
do. No, that yeah.
Um, which I like. I like
Yes,
that.
and I
I
like
mean, I
Joel
like him
Kinnaman,
being crazy, obviously. I like him being, he was doing what he was doing in Renfield,
yeah,
and we spoke about the unbearable weight of massive talent
yeah,
on Morgan Hasn't Seen, and that
yeah,
kind of stuff that is very much him knowing what he's doing
yeah,
and playing up to that. But this just feels like I think it's a big compliment
yeah,
to the way Nick Cage looks in this Sympathy for the Devil movie, that it looks like it doesn't actually have to be Nick Cage playing this part.
yeah,
With these other movies, you think, oh, yeah, Nick Cage. Why would you not have Nick Cage doing that? That's what Nick
yeah.
Cage does. But this is just like, oh, no, this could be anybody, but Nick Cage is doing it.
But I also could see, like, okay, we have this role, let's get a Nick Cage type, and them having that conversation of having, like, I think anybody could play this role, but I'm kind of looking for a Nick Cage type, and then ultimately just deciding, you know what? Let's just ask Nick Cage.
Yeah,
Like,
let's
I could
let's let's
feel
just
like that's
cast
how that
Nick.
casting went, and I'm also excited to see Joel Kinnaman get kind of a leading role because I feel like, I heard that he was really good in the show The Killing, and then when he kind of went into Suicide Squad, everyone was like, "Well, what happened to this guy? Like, he's not a good actor," and all of those things kind of came out of, I think not from him, but just that movie in and of itself.
Well, that
Um,
first Suicide
and then
Squad, yes.
James Gunn's Suicide Squad, he was able to kind of come back from that and be a really likable character to the point where people
Yeah.
were really sad when he, met his demise. So,
And
I'm
that's
really
not a
excited.
spoiler for the Suicide Squad. Near enough everybody dies in that movie.
Exactly. I mean, it's in the title. Uh, but I really am excited to see him do a movie like this and really see how he bounces off of um Nick Cage. And like I'm not super familiar with a lot of his other work. So
No, neither am I.
I only know him kind of in this leadership kind of role, or this so to see him be maybe more toned back, mild mannered guy having to maybe step up and, get out of the situation, I think is going to be a different thing for me to see him that way. So, yeah, I think
Yeah.
this movie looks like a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to be dark comedy from Nicolas Cage's end of things,
Which is
and
what you want.
yes, and build to some really tense moments and a really, sharp kind of dynamic between characters, which I love. So, yeah, this looks like a fun
Yeah.
one.
I'm definitely feeling this one too. I
Yeah.
really am. We did want to talk about one last little topic that we found was quite hilarious, but I wanted to just give a quick shout out. Because one of my favourite Netflix shows has
Yes.
ended now, which was Never Have I Ever,
Yeah.
which had its fourth and final season. Um, this past Friday, I think it came onto Netflix. I blasted through the entire thing in one sitting. Of course, I did.
Yeah.
I've loved this show. I've loved this
Yeah, I
show
know you've
since it
talked about it.
first
I
came.
haven't
I think
watched it.
it's a wonderful, wonderful coming of age show. Um, ends very appropriately, I think, as well.
Okay,
It's a very,
good.
very positive show. Um, but really, truly one of, this generation's best coming of age stories, best coming of age movies or TV
Yeah.
that I have seen, and I've seen quite a good many of them.
Yeah.
Um, it's a very, very positive show, a very chaotic show.
Okay.
Um, like there's Davy, the main character. There is no character in any other show or movie of its kind who creates this much internal mess
Oh,
and
no.
this much kind of you know group mess, just
Yeah.
life mess. She is a mess, but at no point does the show ever condemn it. And no, it's all about just like, how is she gonna get out of this one? Like,
Yes, that's
come
how I
on.
feel about Mrs. Maisel. That's
It's
how I feel about
very
Midge.
supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar in that way. It's such a supportive show, such positive energy
Okay.
of a show.
Yeah, I know you've always been talking up
Um,
this show, but I haven't watched it yet.
and something that will get any shippers in the audience really excited, because
Okay.
there's very it's strong
In that
territory
okay.
for
Well
doing that
well,
with.
I'm watching something that was one of the early phases of shipping in shows. I'm watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer
Oh
series for
yes,
the first
okay.
time. I've never watched
Oh,
it.
okay.
So a lot of my mutuals constantly do videos talking about Buffy, and so I'm like, I'm just gonna watch it. So I ultimately have been watching. I finished the first season, so I'm on season 2, and definitely there's a whole like Angel ship and Spike and ship and all these
Yeah.
different ships happening. So I'm excited to delve into that. So I know what you mean about the shipping culture that could come out of a show like that, because I'm
I
dealing
mean,
with that right
I
now in
don't
Buffy.
necessarily go, along with that sort of stuff. I just,
Yeah,
me, I take things as they are. I
yeah.
watch things and
Well, I
they
mean,
are what they are.
when we did our Twilight series, you were shipping.
Well, I
You
did, but
you
that's
found
because there was
yourself
just,
on one side of the ship.
but that's because there was only one that actually made any sense,
Yeah.
and one that wasn't just inherently creepy and whiny.
I mean, they were
This is
both
the
pretty
point.
creepy.
But the ships, for example, in Never Have I Ever, it doesn't. It's never mattered to me. It could be this
Okay.
one. It could be this one. It could be
Okay.
this one. And this can be for multiple characters
Okay.
as well. But I really do like that show. It's a happy show. It's a smiley show for me, even
Good.
though it's a heartfelt show. It's an
Yeah.
emotional show at times. It's a very touching show at times. It goes through some difficult moments
Yeah.
and helps deal with difficult emotions and difficult familial situations
Yeah.
and friend situations, obviously, in coming together and growing apart and all these kind of things. As well as putting, obviously, the South Asian Indian spin it puts on it with
Okay.
your main character and your main family being an Indian family,
Yeah.
um, which is obviously pretty unique to that particular show of this particular kind, given that it's a Gen Z show.
Yeah.
About that you don't really see anything else like it of this particular era. But it's a wonderful show, and I wanted to say thank you
Okay.
for being a wonderful show and for 4 seasons,
Nice.
and actually Netflix for allowing a show to finish on its terms.
Good. Good. That's awesome.
Which it never does anymore, does it? Because it's a
Yes.
terrible, terrible company.
Yeah.
But
Good.
yes, there you go.
Awesome.
Fun, silly topic, Jeannine, that
Yes.
we want to complain about somebody
Well, not for
complaining.
one person. Yes. So, Tom Cruise's film, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 will be releasing on I think July like 12th or 14th or something like that. And he has been an advocate for his films to be seen on the big screen, particularly in IMAX. He is a proponent on his films being seen the way they were meant to seen. I think when um, with home releases, he was telling people this is a setting you need to put on your TV so you can see this movie in the best quality that it needs to be seen on, and all of this.
Which I don't
So
actually mind. I appreciate that.
yes,
I
I
like
love
I
that. I
like
love
that.
how much he loves the quality of movies and how they look, and really getting the full viewing experience, loving and really having an appreciation for the cinema experience. And so even when people were forced to watch movies at home, holding movies, like I love that. I love that aspect of him as an actor to really appreciate those things. So because the following week we're getting both Oppenheimer and Barbie, he is very not happy with the fact that his movie is only going to be showing in IMAX theaters for just a week. And then after
And
that,
this
it's
is
going to
all
get
because Mr. Nolan
yes.
likes to dominate the IMAX
Yes.
screenings because
And
he's
it's a
Mr.
whole
IMAX.
and it's a whole deeper thing. So yeah, I think he's been using IMAX since The Dark Knight. He's loved it and has now only shot his movies on IMAX. So he had a whole situation where had a contract with Warner Brothers. They couldn't get him, I think, the IMAX thing that he wanted, so he left them and jumped to Universal. And now he has a contract with them where there is a thing in there, something about him being able to show his films in IMAX for a longer period of time or something like that. And that's the whole reason that Barbie is releasing the same day as Oppenheimer, as a dig at him for leaving them for Universal. So it's this whole other tangled web of like studio, battles happening. And now Tom Cruise is in the middle of both of these movies because they're kicking his movie out of IMAX, which is the preferred format he wants for his movie. So now he's trying to like talk to them to to change the release date. He's talking to the IMAX theaters to try to, get them to do this and that and the other thing. Cause like any some places only have maybe one IMAX screen. So you're not going to
Hey,
be
you're lucky
getting
if some places have an IMAX screen.
exactly. I know somebody who their theater is maybe like their closest theater is maybe like 30 minutes to an hour away and it doesn't have an IMAX. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's not like you can show 2 movies on the IMAX screen, in a period. So I don't know if he's been talking to studios, he's been talking to all kinds of different people. He's not happy
Look,
that
I
his
get
movie
it, but why bring it up now?
Yeah. I
You
I think
knew
you
this for
knew
ages, right? Surely.
exactly. Exactly. So I don't know if this has been something he's been trying to do since the start, or if and it's just coming out now, or if it's
Possibly.
something he's been trying to do now recently. But yes, poor Tom Cruise is just like getting pissed off that people are going to steal his IMAX screens in a week after his movie's release. So
But
I thought that
also,
was kind of a
shut up about it now because you still have actually 1 week of just on your own. And
yeah,
nobody else is going to be seeing anything else at that
yeah,
point, really, are they? It is the biggest release. You are going to be IMAX showing after IMAX showing after IMAX showing. You know,
yeah.
every IMAX
Especially
in the
since now you've
world
made this big stink about the importance of IMAX, so just do all your push for IMAX in the time leading up to the
in the
movie
first
and
week.
show people, "Hey, if you're gonna see this movie, please go see it in IMAX. That's the format, da 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 da. It's gonna look better, it's gonna look bolder, it's gonna look da 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 da. The stunts are gonna look da 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 da. IMAX, IMAX, IMAX." So even if you only have that week and a half, use that week and a half to talk up the IMAX being the best way to see it.
And when Oppenheimer crashes and burns like its own experimental bomb, um, after 2 weeks, Mission Impossible can then go back in the IMAXs
Well, I don't
and be
think
like,
that's
"We're
gonna
still
happen,
here.
but
We're still here." Barbie's not going to be interested. Barbie doesn't care. Barbie will be showing on anything.
yes, I don't think Barbie cares about IMAX.
Barbie doesn't care. But Nolan and Oppenheimer cares, and Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible cares. So when Nolan finally has to bite off his own ass and realize that his movies are just too up themselves for their own good, Mission Impossible can just go back there and say we're still here, we still have the legs, or just re-release later on, just
Yeah,
re-release like August. Or you'll be still out in August, re-release in October
yeah.
when nothing else is in IMAX that needs to be IMAX.
I mean, I could see him doing something like that, so
He would
I don't
do
know.
something like that.
Yes, but I think
Or
after Top
come
Gun
to my
Maverick
side,
yeah.
Tom Cruise, finally, after all these years. Come to my side and be on the anti-Christopher Nolan train. I don't hate Christopher Nolan, I just think he's
It's kind
up
of
himself.
pretentious. Yeah. I agree, I think we're on the same page with Nolan, like, he's a little pretentious.
Just you did good Batman, and that doesn't mean you can just decide to do weird things that don't make any sense now. Oh, this is going to be life-changing cinema. It's a movie about the guy that made the atomic bomb. Why would I want to go and see it? I'm not
Well,
interested in
I'm just
I'm not
generally
interested
curious
in
about this.
remembering the devastation of the atomic bomb.
I'm just curious to see, like, this him and Barbie kind of going head to head, like, I wanna see what that looks like.
I
Um,
want fun, please. I don't
yes, like
want, oh, how, oh, look at the destruction that this is going. We know what destruction it caused. We only have to ever learn that once.
yeah.
You know, we don't have to keep going back to it. People learn what it did once, and then that stays in their minds if they are a decent human being.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you cannot forget that and the pictures you see. So therefore, why would I want to go and watch a dramatized movie? I don't care how many times Cillian Murphy can come out and say how good it is, how impressive everything is. Oh god, it's so annoying as well. All this, oh, we had to do the explosion practically. I love practical effects, yes. Oh, but see, computer imagery um would not have felt right. We want people to feel the explosion. You want people to feel the explosion of the. What sort of sadist are you, Chris Nolan? I don't get
You
it.
want people to live through an atomic bomb, the
You want people
feeling
to
of an
live
atomic
through it, you
bomb.
need to feel the vibrations. No, nobody ever wants to feel the vibrations of that. I'd rather feel the vibrations of Barbie Girl, please.
Yeah.
That's what I want to feel, the vibrations of. That's what I'll be watching in the next screening over. I might even halfway through my screening of Barbie find out where the Oppenheimer screening is and just
And make
run
sure
in
it's far
singing.
away because it's probably going, like, in the middle of disco dancing.
It probably
Like,
is, and that's very annoying. That's very annoying that it would do that. But I will go into that screening and just start singing Barbie Girl at the top of my lungs.
just marching, "I'm a Barbie girl in a
I,
Barbie world."
I hope there is actually
March
picket
across the front
lines.
of all the seats, just shouting it
I
while
hope there is
Oppenheimer's
picket
playing.
lines in every cinema, every major cinema in the US, the UK, mainland Europe,
I
everywhere.
don't like Christopher. It's not that I don't like Christopher Nolan. I am just putting out a call to action. Everybody protest this movie. But,
No, don't
Chris Nolan.
protest the movie. Don't protest against the movie. Just protest for your chosen movie.
Okay. Fair
Because you're
enough.
either one or the other. You
Yeah.
can't be one of these people pretending to be both. Oh, I'm going to go and watch this movie and then watch that movie. That's the weirdest double feature ever.
I mean,
You
I might be one of those
lunatic. Why would you
people.
want to do that
Well,
to
because
yourself?
I'm curious about Oppenheimer, but I'm not inherently interested in seeing it. I definitely am all about seeing Barbie.
But why would you
But
go from one screening to the other like some people are planning on doing? I've seen people on Twitter. They're planning
just
on
talking
literally
about
going Oppenheimer straight to Barbie. It's the
some
worst thing you
people
could
are doing it
possibly
the
do.
other way around. Like you're gonna be on this light high of Barbie and then
That's even worse.
yeah.
Doing it Barbie first is even worse, and
Yes.
doing it at all is wrong.
Yeah, somebody did a poll, I think, and made like a TikTok about the poll and thought it was weird that there were quite a few people who said they were gonna be doing it that direction. I'm like, "What?"
Oh
So,
God.
yeah, it was like at least 40 something, almost 50% said that they were gonna see, Barbie first. So, I don't know.
I might go and see Barbie, then go into the Oppenheimer screening and reenact Barbie at the front
Oh my gosh, I'd lean to see
while
that.
the movie's playing. I'll get thrown out. I'll never be let back in. I can't do that. I'd need other people.
Yes.
I'd need other people to
Well,
get involved.
Morgan's call to action, everyone.
My call to action is just make it a friendly war. Make it a friendly war. It's been
What?
friendly. Nobody's like shouted at each other really over this at the moment, are they? It's all
Okay.
a bit fun. But I mean,
Yes,
I want two
except Tom
sides of the
Cruise.
cinema. I want I want cinema employees to be kind of making it out like it's much more serious a
Yeah.
shouting match than it isn't. Like, get back, Barbie people. And the Barbie people are just there in like disco clothes, just saying Barbie. And the Oppenheimer people are there wearing big coats and flat hats and looking miserable
You have like
because
a whole plan for
looking
this.
skeletal and gaunt and looking like they've probably just been exploded by the atomic. That's a horrible thing to say. I shouldn't be saying that.
Yes, no, just stop.
Stop it now. We've gone too far. We've gone too far. I just think some people enjoy fun and some people clearly don't enjoy fun.
Yeah. So, it's gonna be interesting. Those 2
It
weekends
is.
are just gonna
It
be
is going to be.
is Tom
It
Cruise
is
gonna
going
get
to be.
his way?
And then
Who's
yeah,
gonna see
Mission
what?
Impossible's there the week before being totally forgotten about because there's just a war. The war of Barbenheimer.
Barbie Barbenheimer. Oh my gosh. Well, I
Well, it
have a
can't be
big Barbie
Oppeny, can
I
it?
have a big Barbie weekend planned, so, you know,
Oh, I
I'm
went to the cinema today as well, and there was a Barbie standee, where you can walk into the box and someone takes a
mhm.
picture of you as the thing.
Yeah,
And
mhm.
obviously, I was on my own, so I didn't have one, and I forgot to do
Aw.
that.
Aw,
Oh
poor
dear.
boy.
Anyway, that's fun. That's fun. It is fun. I think it's fun.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not. I'm not entirely serious with all my aggression, by the way.
I think
The
we
only
get
thing I
aware.
am serious is I just think Chris Nolan's deeply, deeply pretentious and not for his own good.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not for his own good.
I do agree with
We
that.
do have our review though, don't we, Jeannine? That we did want to
Yes.
get into. Our Let's Talk for today is, of course, our full spoiler review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the second of the Spider-Verse trilogy, as it's going to be. Started with Into the Spider-Verse. We'll round off with Beyond the Spider-Verse,
Yes. Which
as
will
we
come out
find
next
out
March,
right
I
at the end
believe.
of this movie. Next March, is it that soon?
Yes, I do believe so. So yes, obviously heavy spoilers for this conversation, people. So
Heavy, heavy spoilers. It's a although this isn't a heavy spoiler, it is a wonderful, wonderful movie. I mean,
yes.
Into the Spider-Verse changed the game with animated movies. This one almost takes it to another level,
Yeah.
technically, and I couldn't be more impressed, really.
Yeah. So the varied animation styles, the music, um, the meta references, so many things. This was just a huge, big love for the character of Spider-Man. Every iteration that you could think of, from video games to animated shows to the movies themselves, were represent the comics, all were represented. Except, my version that I'm named for today, which I just wanted to shed some light on. So that's why I had, my name be Valerie the librarian. So
Okay.
I'd like to think this iteration of Jessica Drew is a nod to that character, because the first ever Spider-Woman was a black woman with an afro in the 70s, and her name was Valerie the librarian. There was a promotional comic book that came out, made by, it was like in conjunction with the Electric Company. So it was the Electric Company working with Marvel, and they did this comic for Super Spidey stories, where Spider-Man, I think he's just defeated like the Vulture, and he decides to take off his suit and like sunbathe on a rooftop. He webs up his suit in a web like sitting nearby, but it falls, and it falls right into the hands of this librarian named Valerie. She is a fan of Spider-Man. She is inspired by him. So she decides, well, I want to help out the city too. I could be Spider-Man. So she puts the suit on and she goes back to her apartment and she's like, well, how can I wall crawl like Spider-Man? I don't have any powers. So she takes some suction cups from her dartboard and puts them on her hands, and she's like practicing her wall crawling. And then Spider-Man, since his suit is missing, he goes and gets his spare suit, and he comes across Valerie crawling on the walls. And ultimately, instead of saying, "Hey, give me back my suit. What are you doing, lady?" He teams up with her and they end up fighting crime together. And she ends up like helping him out, saving the day. Even like the little cover is her swinging in to save a tied up Spider-Man from the Vulture. And so I'd like to think that this version of Jessica Drew is a combination of the Jessica Drew from the comics, who did have a whole run where she was pregnant, and a combination of the first ever Spider-Woman, this wonderful black woman named Valerie. And so just kind of combining those two characters. And also Valerie swings in fighting the Vulture, and we get a very similar scene in this film Across the Spider-Verse of Jessica Drew swinging in fighting the Vulture. So definitely just a nod to the first ever Spider-Woman being this black librarian named Valerie.
Yeah, I think that is probably very accurate and very
Yes.
um, true to actually what probably happened in the movie.
Yes.
Um,
So I like
or was the case.
I haven't heard any like concrete confirmation that like that's what they were trying to do and that's why they made Jessica Drew black, but I just assume, especially since we didn't see this version of her amongst the other spider people. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I like
so
that. I like that.
yeah.
What a nice little opening bit of information there for
Yeah.
our review of Across the Spider-Verse. I mean, it is it's staggeringly good animation.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say that it makes you realize just how mediocre every other animation form looks now
Yeah,
when you
to
look
just
at this and Into the Spider-Verse and just what they're able to do. in merging the different styles of animation.
Yes. I mean, Gwen's world being this watercolor world and the colors changing in
Yeah.
terms of like, I think they described it to Haley as, her world being like a mood ring. So, like, the colors changing as emotions are being revealed and shown, and that kind of driving how the world looks around her in her universe.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating
Yeah.
from a technical standpoint, the entire movie. Um, it's really, I mean, it's not that it's a good, not that it's a good job. It's like that because the story's bad or anything like that. But I'm so thankful it, the animation of it is as good as it is, because it actually matches up with the quality of the story you get anyway.
Yeah.
Like, Miles Morales was somebody I was not familiar with before I saw Into the Spider-Verse. I don't think too many people,
Yeah.
to be honest, who didn't read comics were particularly familiar with who Miles Morales was, but he's quickly becoming a particular favorite of a particular
Yeah.
generation in terms of Spider-Man.
And there was a whole
Who is
metaphor on
Spider-Man?
that in the film, which has been heavily talked about recently on TikTok, if you were on TikTok in that on that side of nerd talk and things like that. That yes, the filmmakers themselves have come out and said that Miguel and kind of just the Spider Universe rejecting Miles, telling him he doesn't belong there, telling him he's not going to fit with them, he can't work with them, is a huge meta commentary on the fact that the character of Miles in his introduction into comics was very much not accepted and, had a lot of racist kind of people really against him, even joining the Spider family and being a version of Spider-Man and not wanting him because
Yeah.
they thought he was some kind of Peter Parker erasure. Um,
I think
so
it's really clever for them to put that
yeah,
into this movie,
yeah,
and to have it be from such a really significant character in this particular movie.
yeah,
That Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, Oscar Isaac's character,
yeah,
is in this movie. He's the leader of, the elite team of spider people who
yeah.
sort out all the multiversal issues, because do we really want to even try and explain what's going on with the multiverse? No. We
Well, I
should
mean, just
never
kind of based
attempt
off
to
of the
explain
first, yeah.
what's going on.
Generally, just you can look at it from, okay, in the first movie, Kingpin's collider opened up the multiverse. Our characters thought they closed it and fixed it, but they didn't. There were still some other anomalies that got out into other universes. So they're still dealing with this problem. And so now Miguel has gone and he's looking for these anomalies and trying to close the loop back and send these people back to their places where they belong. So essentially, like, No Way Home, and basically just continuing what we thought was fixed in the first movie.
They even make a No Way Home joke.
Yes, I mean, and the references. I personally saw more Toby references than any other kind of Spider-Man. Um, but all of the Spider people, even, and obviously it's Sony, so they're going to really kind of push the references of their properties more. So Venom was getting a lot of love as well. Um, and on all of their Spider-Man movies. So,
Yeah.
you have to just kind
No,
of so interesting that yeah, they actually pulled, I think there were essentially two references to MCU's Spider-Man with what Miguel says about Doctor Strange and that whole situation, and then uh seeing a character from that Spider-Man with Donald Glover coming in as the Prowler and seeing very much in the vein of movies that people love with cartoons and real people coming together, a la, Who Framed Roger Rabbit and things like that.
Yeah.
Seeing Donald Glover in this movie dressed as the Prowler because he is Uncle Aaron in the MCU Spider-Man universe. So that was a really fun nod. Everyone in my theater lost it when they saw him.
Yeah,
And
it's
also just
it's really interesting how he would actually just have been approached to just kind of come in and do that.
Yes,
I think
and I
really,
mean,
but
he's credited as being the inspiration for Miles Morales even existing. Because, you know, they everyone references that episode of Community where he gets out of bed and he's wearing the Spider-Man shirt, and that in turn spawned this campaign of let's make a new Spider-Man, a black Spider-Man, and let's have Donald Glover play him. And so, you know, the creators of the comics, Brian Michael Bendis, I think he saw that and said, okay, I'm going to create this new Spider-Man, all because he saw that episode of Community with Donald Glover wearing a Spider-Man shirt
yeah.
and this kind of call from people to create a new black Spider-Man. Um, and also it just kind of all of this speaks to Stanley's one of Stanley's favorite things about the Spider-Man character, which wasn't even something planned. Um, when they ended up, you know, he came up with the character of Spider-Man, and then when they drew him with uh completely covered. You can't see his hands, you can't see his feet, you can't see his face, nothing. So then that out of that, Stanley really loved the idea that any kid could see themselves as Spider-Man, no matter what color skin they had, no matter what they look like. Anybody could see themselves as the character. So to then bring in a character like Miles, I think that so beautifully speaks to what Stanley loved about what that costume did for his character. Um,
Absolutely. I mean, I think
yeah.
it's much easier for anybody to see themselves as Spider-Man now because there's infinite amounts of Spider people.
Exactly, exactly. So, um, yeah, I mean, look at the Valerie the librarian that gets people to kind of go seek out all these different spider people they
Yeah.
didn't even know about. Like Spider Punk was a standout character. So many fun characters that maybe a lot of people didn't know about unless they were really into the comics, unless they played the games, all kinds of things. So just to open up that world, like that was a really fun thing. But just getting back to Donald Glover, yeah, like him being in this movie is kind of a bigger uh it entails so many other layers than just him being
It
Aaron
does.
Davis
Yeah.
in the MCU. It's the fact that he inspired the character. People wanted him to play Miles Morales. He ultimately went on to voice the character in an animated version of it. And now is that speaking to some things that could happen in the MCU now? Um, and you know, play into a live action Miles Morales with him being Uncle Aaron and all of that. So uh just the layers of seeing him sit there. He only literally had like two lines.
Yeah.
Like it's rude to
No,
stare. Like three lines. Like it's rude to stare. And then I think Spider Punk was the one who caught him. And he says, "Oh, I tripped. That's how you caught me." And then when, you know, everyone's booing, he just boos. But if you really know, like, so many just fun layers to just seeing him in this movie.
it does. It could be very significant.
Yeah.
It could be simply fun.
Yes, and either way, I'm excited. I was excited to see it,
Yeah.
regardless
And
of what that means for future things. It was perfect.
so much of this movie, I think, is a Spider-Man fan's fantasy, a Spider-Man fan's dream.
Yeah.
There's so many things to catch. There's so many things for basic Spider-Man fans to catch as well in references. Like we say, there's jokes about No Way Home. There's plenty of references to your Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, your
Mhm.
Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, things that most people who are going to watch this movie will know well if they've never, even if they've never read any Spider-Man or played
Yeah.
any Spider-Man video games or anything like that.
Yeah.
So you're still going to feel involved. You're still going to feel like you get the little, nuggets they're giving you in reference form, in joke form sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, because there is so much going on all the time because the style of the animation is constantly kind of
Yeah.
popping and snapping and
Moving. Yes. Yeah.
switching up and lights are coming everywhere and it's kind of a lot of strobe lighting really when you
Yeah,
think about it
I
because
did see because I follow this girl who does have like sensory issues, and a lot of flashing lights really give her headache and make her feel nauseous. And there have, I guess, been enough complaints that they are re-releasing another version of the film that has less of that stroby kind of
yeah,
things
because
happening in the
there is a
movie.
lot. There is
Yes.
a
I
lot
mean,
of things.
even she expressed kind of having difficulty watching the movements of Spider-Punk because of his frame rate. Also
Yeah.
just kind of, just messing with her eyes in terms of, what she deals with. So, yeah, they are releasing another version of the film that will have less of that, sensory kind of issues for people, because of all that. I actually saw the movie in 4DX, so it was a lot.
Oof.
Um, just think of Gwen's drumming solo at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, your chair was
Ooh. Yeah, I
the
can
whole
imagine.
drumming, and then the whole
That's
chase sequence was non-stop. 'Cause
that's heavy.
that chase goes on forever, it feels like, so my chair was
It
just
does.
going.
It does. That
Yeah,
is that's pretty intense. I mean, I
it
haven't ever
it was
watched a
very.
movie in that format. I'm not
Yes, you
sure
have
whether
to
I
pick
would actually
you have
enjoy
to pick
doing it or
you have
not.
to pick the right one. People have said, like, The Little Mermaid in 4DX is really good. I miss the 4DX of The Little Mermaid. Um, but Top Gun: Maverick was the best in 4DX. It was
I'm
perfect. But
just
this
not sure
one,
whether I would enjoy something like that or whether it would actually make me feel ill.
it depends on the movie. It really depends on what movie you choose, because I think you're not gonna know kind of the choreography of the chair in the moment.
No.
But I think you can look at something and know that it's gonna be, so I thought, okay, Spider-Man, it's gonna be a lot of kind of more swinging action and my chair kind of leaning with them swinging. I'm gonna feel that energy. Um, but obviously crazy running around action sequences, my chair. So I kind of thought it would be like that, and it was. With something like The Little Mermaid, I can assume that it's gonna be a lot of the water effects, which are just mostly just mist, and swimming stuff, which is not gonna be super kind of jolty and crazy, and maybe some stuff
Yeah.
on a ship. So that would be, better. So I think it's easy if you think about kind of the movie, you can gauge what's best for 40X. I kind of all surmised it was going to be crazy, and it sure enough was.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, you expect that, but it's what you kind of love about
Yes, I
this
had
movie
fun
is
with it in
it's
40X because I felt really just like, really
yeah,
into the action.
you
So yeah.
love its completely insane chaos style.
Yes.
Because it really is like that. You said, you mentioned Spider Punk's frame rates, the different characters because they're drawn differently, because
Yeah.
they are animated differently. Some have different frame rates to other characters. It's such a, I wanna watch making of documentaries about these Spider-Verse movies because how they are put together
Yeah.
is just unlike any other animated movie. It actually makes me, I think, more into the process of animation
Yes.
than
And
any other
combining all these
animated
different
movie.
styles. Yeah.
Yeah, than any other animated movie has
Mhm.
ever made me feel before. I feel more kind of into knowing exactly how you do that in
Yeah.
this movie and in Into the
Yes.
Spider-Verse than I have ever done with animated movies before. All that technical stuff aside, which really does for me just help the movie
Yeah.
elevate itself to unbelievably wonderful quality. But the story itself, to carry on this story from where we left off, in a sense of kind of, yes, Miles had seemingly, stopped Kingpin's collider, saved the day. His team had gone off to their other worlds again, their
Yes,
own
and has been
universes.
Spider-Manning for a whole year without any issues.
Yeah, has been doing fine, but obviously not had any visits from his friends
Yeah,
or anything like that. There's been nothing like that. So he's feeling a little bit kind of on his own.
yeah,
He's feeling a little bit, he's enjoying being Spider-Man, sure, but
yeah.
he wishes he had his
His
Spider
friends,
family back.
and particularly Gwen as well. Um,
Obviously, Gwen,
yeah.
because you could all shut up being like, oh, they're just best friends. They're not just best friends. People are allowed to be romantically interested in each other. I've seen this
Yes,
multiple times,
yes,
happen with
yeah.
with with other
There was
characters as well.
there was actually a
Apparently,
debate.
nobody's allowed to have romantic interest in movies
Yes,
anymore.
there was definitely flirtations there, they definitely liked each other. But now there's also a debate just thrown out there that, did Gwen and Hobie hook up?
100%. 100%. Daniel Kaluuya, who plays Spider-Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good as well. Here's something I actually really like about Spider-Punk and Daniel Kaluuya playing him is thank God Daniel Kaluuya uses his actual voice.
No, they asked him. Liz told him specifically, lean into it, lean into the Cockney,
Good,
lean into the rhyming language, the rhyming slang, do all of that. Like they told him,
good.
if we need to pull it back, we'll pull it back, but just throw everything out there, everything you know about the language, about the the dialect and all of that, just throw all of it out there.
It,
So
it's I loved it. I loved that sort of stuff, and I love the fact that sometimes because they said something, Spider-Punk said a phrase that I use an awful lot, but never do on here, um, because I just feel like it doesn't make sense unless you know what it is. But I say I haven't got a Scooby Doo like a lot. I say that a
yes,
lot, and
well,
it
they
just
even
means I
put a
haven't got a
little
clue. I don't
clue.
know.
Yeah, it's the rhyming slang, and which I learned from a great Sidney Poitier movie, To Sir with Love. Where they actually explain the rhyming slang to him, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
But they
okay.
did it in this movie as
and
well. They
they
put a
put a
little
little like
comic
definition box that
card,
tells you Scooby Doo rhyming slang, like
but
yeah,
they did
means
that for
clue.
multiple things throughout the movie.
Yes,
Just
yeah.
little, like, few frames worth of just,
Mhm.
here's a bit of an explanation. Catch it if you catch it, but if you don't catch it, doesn't really matter because
Yeah.
we've already moved on. But it's
Yes.
just an extra detail
So
that
good.
is wonderful. I also never thought I'd hear the word Manden get used in a superhero movie, which is not a word I use because that's quite a it's not really my style of word really, but it just means group of friends, really. That's all
Yeah.
it means. Um like the guys, the Manden,
Yeah. Mhm.
someone would
Yeah.
say. But Spider-Punk uses that.
Yeah, and then
Um
I hate the AM, I hate the PM, but the PM actually being the prime minister because
yes.
he's just very
It's
much of a
great.
a rebel. But yes, that was kind of a whole debate that I saw kind of come out of that, and then somebody was like, "Oh, you guys are gross even talking about this. They're like 15," and this whole kind of thing. So then I made a whole like TikTok about breaking down. Okay, well, what can we surmise about these ages? They never say Hobie's age. We know that Miles is 15 because he says it in the movie. We
Gwen's
know
definitely
that
older.
Gwen says she's 15 months older than him in the first movie. So she's
Okay.
16. So, not knowing Hobie's age and cuz there's talk about her staying over at his place or staying over in his universe, um I think, based on who Hobie is, just kind of this rebellious person, you could see him being a 17-year-old living on his own.
Yeah. 100%.
Yes. So she's 16, he's 17. It's not this creepy like he's an old man and she's a kid kind of energy happening. So,
Why are
yeah, it was
people
like
even thinking like that?
exactly. So it was a whole debate, like, I had to make a video about it. I'm like, "I'm pretty sure if you listen to the things, this is probably how old these people are, so don't stress about it too
Yeah.
much." But, yeah.
But no,
So
I really liked everybody. I liked opening with Gwen's
yes.
background in Gwen's story, getting to know, her and her dad really well, and the struggle there of kind of,
Yes.
her
Of
dad
him
finding
believing
out
thinking that
she
she's
is,
responsible and she has to hide it from her dad and that they're so
yeah,
close and she has to lie to him. Because I've seen people like really calling out Gwen, calling her the villain of this movie and
I think he's
saying that
unfair.
she doesn't want they don't want her with Miles and how dare her, she betrayed him, all of these things. And I think, yes, there were things that she did that were not the best friend things to do in terms of her relationship with Miles. But you have to think about the whole emotional journey that she's going through, the whole complex layers of things she's dealing with. I mean, we see her, she's already struggling with the loss of her best friend on top of feeling guilty about it because the only reason he was in that situation is because he wanted to be just like her. So that's what she's
Yeah,
dealing with in terms of having to lie to someone who she loves, then him finding out the truth and not hesitating to pull a gun on her and believing the worst thing about her. So that's what she's dealing with on an emotional aspect, on top of also missing Miles, who is the one person that she's connected with since losing Peter. So give her some credit, give her some empathy. to the fact that there were things driving her decisions. Then as soon as Miguel comes in, he is immediately blaming her for the multiverse damage. So now because she has all this loss, she has nothing left. The only thing she can lean into and focus on is, okay, Miguel is telling me this multiversal situation was partly my fault. So let me lean into this mission in trying to fix it. So this is
Yeah.
my mission. This is what I need to do. But I also miss Miles. So then in turn, so she does go see Miles, and you could understand her wanting to spare him from learning this canon event, from learning these things. And she obviously didn't tell him for reasons of protecting him. She obviously didn't tell him because it's her being even a part of this whole society is her trying to fix a mistake that she feels like she's made. And think about how hard it must be, the fact that she feels like the relationship with her father is so beyond repair that she just has to let him die in this canon event.
Yeah.
Imagine the
And she
pain and heartbreak of that. Like, there's no way I can ever repair this relationship with my father. He thinks I'm this killer, so I have to let him die. So imagine that is all of the emotional things this character is dealing with. And the fact that people can't have a little bit of empathy to consider that and have that be a driving force for why she does some of the things she does in terms of Miles and keeping things from him to essentially protect him.
Yeah.
And people just really just writing her off as a villain. I'm just like, poor girl. Like
It's
I see you, Gwen. I understand what you're going through, Gwen. I have some empathy for you. So
well, it's a very unfair thing. It's a very, very unfair
yeah.
thing to think. Absolutely. I mean, really, the movie, or this second movie, is, I think it's, if the first movie, if Into the Spider-Verse was about kind of not self-preservation, assurance of kind of who you are,
Yeah.
and discovering who you are. This is about keeping it. This movie's about kind of keeping that mentality in the face of
Adversity in the face of people telling you you're wrong.
unmatched,
Yeah.
unmatched adversary in the face of completely crazy situation. I mean, our kind of main. Does the movie have a main antagonist? There's a good question. But our main supposed antagonist, although does he even really do anything wrong in the movie, is the Spot, voiced by Jason Schwartzman, who I
Yes.
find really quite funny.
Yes. The fact that he is kind of ridiculous in the beginning, only to become really frightening.
Really
Was such a
frightening.
good turn. Yeah.
Really frightening. Really
And just the design as
powerful.
well. Yeah.
The design is very creepy. The design does look like something out of some sort of horror game. Because he's
Yes.
just a white figure full of just large black portal spots.
Yeah.
He can travel anywhere in the multiverse. He can travel just through portals in the same space.
Yeah.
He's confusing for me because I don't have that sort of brain. But I found him very engaging as somebody that's obsessed with defeating Miles because he blames Miles. Because of the collider situation at the end
Well,
of Into the Spider-Verse.
but also for me, that was just huge. And I think they did it because I think a lot of people loved that moment as much as I did, is the fact that no, he's the guy, he's the bagel guy.
Yeah.
He ends up being the guy that Miles hits with the bagel. And that scene for me is always so hilarious that he gets hit and you just see the word bagel.
He's
So the
just
fact that he is that guy is just like
a
an added so good, chef's kiss.
seeming nobody from the
Yes.
first movie. But like you said, by the end of this movie, he has gotten this level of multiversal energy kind of power to look like he can
Yes, and the fact that he has
really
nothing
break things.
and he has nothing to lose, on top of the fact that his only driving motivation is because he was made fun of and seen as a villain of the week. And so he's just trying to prove that he's not. So
Yeah,
he's not
he's trying to
he's
prove
not trying
himself that
to
he's serious.
So he's not trying to get anything. He's not trying to
No,
gain anything. He just wants to prove that he is a formidable villain. So he's gonna do
he's
the
not
worst thing he
even
can.
really. He's not even really doing anything necessarily wrong against anybody else. Even though, yes, okay, he's upset with Miles, and he has a few here and there fights with Miles, but it's all like you say, it's all about himself.
Yeah.
He's not necessarily against anybody by the end of this movie. He's just obsessed with thinking himself more seriously powerful than he is.
Yes. And, like,
And this
Miles
is what
didn't
he tries to get.
inherently or purposefully create him, but he blames Miles. He puts Miles in the shoes of the person that made him lose everything he lost.
Yeah,
Has lost a lot, but he needs to put a person to that, and so he just chooses Miles because Miles was
yeah,
there. Miles helped in blowing up the collider. Miles threw the bagel at him. So he's not taking his position to be somebody who was working with Olivia Octavius, who is this evil entity, and being there working on this machine that would cause all of this potential harm to the universe. He doesn't take any responsibility in any of the factors that caused him to end up like this. He just puts it all on Miles and now has to prove to Miles that he is a worthy adversary, and that's his driving force. So the
yeah.
fact that he has nothing to lose, it makes him even more scary.
And really, for Miles, though, this movie it's about him having faith in himself when nobody
Yeah.
else does.
And I love that he
And I
knows
mean
himself
when
so
and I
well.
mean when nobody else does. When
Yes, and I
even
love mhm.
occasionally his mum and dad lose faith in who he is. He has to have it in himself, and him going to the headquarters of all the spider people to Spidertopia or whatever they call it. In Miguel's world,
Yeah.
and discovering everybody there, and then being told that he should have never been a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The spider that bit him was from another dimension.
Yeah.
It was meant for that dimension's Miles
Miles
Morales,
Morales.
not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You are the original anomaly. And because the elite spider team headed by Miguel Oscar Isaac is really just focused on protecting the canon of Spider-Man.
Yes, yeah.
That's what they are focused
They're
on. It's
they're
why I
they're
think it's
focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on the wrong thing. Miguel has really, tapped into their grief moment, and made them only focus on that. Because if these horrific events that happen to them or are going to happen to them have no purpose, then they mean nothing. A lot of these people feel like these events had to happen to make me be the spider person. Without that, I am not this person who has saved so many people, who has done all these wonderful things, who has this life. So I need to give this canon event this lost purpose. Otherwise, what's the point?
and
And
this is
that's what Miguel ends up kind of tapping into for all of them and has them focusing on. So that, like, someone like Peter B. Parker can't see that because of Miles even existing, because of his interaction with Miles, he was able to fix his relationship with Mary Jane and have a child. And he's been living a happy life for a whole year without his world breaking down like Miguel's, without his world being destroyed. And he wouldn't have that without Miles, without the original anomaly. And Peter B. Parker can't even think about, well, Miles distracted my life and it made it better, and nothing has happened to my universe. So there should be another way to think about this. Peter B.
yeah,
Parker
yeah,
can't
but
even think about that because he's so focused on the loss that he suffered and why that is so important to protect.
yeah, but I feel like he is a conflicted individual
Yeah.
because of his fondness for Miles.
Yeah. But
I
he's
just
still
like,
very much about the mission and the importance
of
of
course he
protecting
is,
these
of course
events.
he is. I just like how it is very understandable why Miguel is the way he is.
Yeah.
because we actually get his own internal thoughts. We actually get his own story of, I tried putting myself back, or I can't remember exactly what he does. Basically, he tries,
The Miguel
and
in another
or does he
universe,
die and then he tries
a
putting
Miguel,
himself back
yes,
in his
a
own
Miguel
life or
from
something
a
like that?
version of him from a different universe ends up getting killed. So he steps into that universe and pretends to be
And it
that version of
breaks.
him.
Yeah.
And he's with his daughter and he's happy. But because he's not even meant to be there and take over that role, that person was meant to be dead. His world started to just disintegrate around him.
Yeah. The place breaks. So this is what's caused his obsession, really,
Yes.
with ensuring that good and bad, but mainly bad because he's inherently focused on negatives and death and
Yeah.
things like this, happen
Yeah.
to everyone. Otherwise, the multiverse breaks.
Yeah.
Because if one universe breaks, then another one can. And certainly in this particular instance, when you've had this collider situation that isn't quite closed, that is open, that is all over the place, they explain it as kind of one little strand of web can affect another little strand of web like that.
Yeah.
And if one breaks, everything can break and the
Mhm.
entire thing collapses.
Yeah.
And this is what he's trying to protect. This is why it seems like a reasonable way of thinking. And this is what makes him, I think, a really good kind of central antagonist for the movie.
Yeah.
Because his not his motivation, but his reason is painfully understandable.
Yeah.
When you consider his own situation. He's not actually against Miles. He just, according to the system, Miles shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So Miles can't exist
Yes,
as
but you
far
have to
as
think about
his very single-minded approach is considered. But
yes.
you can
So
understand why it is like that.
exactly. So and the fact that like it's hard to even focus on other ways of things happening. The fact that like you nobody pays attention to the fact that Miles has existed for a year. He's touched the lives of other people who have been
Yeah, and
living out
he's
their lives
doing
for a year
fine.
and nothing has happened. But because they're so focused on, what Miguel is telling them to focus on, that's they're looking at the wrong thing. And until not until the end of the movie do they see another way.
And
So,
this is why I think that kind of "you don't belong" thing is such a it's a wonderful mirroring of
yeah.
the real world attitude towards the
Yeah.
character of Miles Morales for this movie to use
And even in
and for
Into the
this movie to use
Spider-Verse,
that.
all
Yeah,
the other more
because
experienced spider people had little faith in him when it came to the big mission,
yeah,
and they didn't really want him to be a part because they didn't think he had enough experience, only for him to step up and prove himself.
but because you have Miles there keeping on saying, um, I'm tired of everyone telling me how my story's gonna
Yeah.
go. I
Nah, I'm
am
gonna do my own thing.
Spider-Man. I am
Yeah.
Miles Morales. I'm gonna do my own thing. It's been working fine. So shut up and let me be Spider-Man because I'm
Yeah.
Spider-Man. And it's that kind of self-assurance, that
Yeah.
self-confidence that is the real central part of this movie. It's taking the discovery and the gain of that confidence that you got from the first movie,
Yeah.
and in this one just solidifying that, so you're totally just with Miles and his mentality of, well, yeah, I don't get why this is so serious. Why is it serious now but wasn't like 4 months ago? It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. Like,
Yeah.
what's changed? Why now? Because it doesn't make sense, really. Why can't why do we have to go through all this pain? Being Spider-Man is not doesn't just mean you have to do this, 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 and this.
Yeah.
Anyone can be
But that's
Spider-Man.
what I'm saying. They are so hung up on the fact that like this death had purpose in my journey, so I have to protect that. Otherwise, I lost this person for nothing. So the fact
Yeah.
that they're holding on to that concept is what is making them really see Miguel's way of thinking and not anything
Yeah,
else. So
and
that's
you
kind of
can
my
understand it.
thought process on why, these spider people are so easily like, Miguel might have a point. We probably do have to do these things in order to protect our futures, because if these things don't happen, we essentially maybe aren't who we are.
And I
Um,
think it's a real shame, particularly like you said, for Peter B. Parker,
yeah.
who really has a good life going now, a really
Yeah.
happy life going now, but still just
Is
can't
stuck in this
get over the
fear.
fact
Yeah.
that is he a worthy Spider-Man anymore?
Yeah.
Because it didn't go the way it was supposed to.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think, that sort of message, that sort of attitude can be put on any sort of story, any sort of life. You have it in your own life. Things don't always go the way they are supposed to. Things don't always go the way other people tell you they are supposed to go. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean you are any less.
And that
That doesn't
doesn't
mean
mean,
you
yeah.
are unworthy of being who you believe yourself to be.
Yes, and
And
that
what
doesn't
a
mean there's not
very,
another
very
way.
positive message for this movie
Yeah.
to have.
And that doesn't
Ultimately, it ends
Mhm.
in quite a stark cliffhanger,
Yes, like,
but
my theater was like,
that's the
"What?"
positive. That's the
Yeah, my theater was
message.
not happy, with just ending on a cliffhanger. But yeah, I mean, and that doesn't mean there's also that kind of message. That doesn't mean there's not another way. Like, we're dealing with
No,
this
there's
we're
always
dealing
another way.
we're dealing with this multiversal situation, so why is Miguel's way the only way of handling it?
Yeah.
Let's look at other options here. So yeah,
Surely in these infinite universes, someone somewhere has found a different way of doing things.
yes, and, just to go back quickly, because I think we're probably gonna wrap this up soon, is that, you were talking about the animation style, the Lego animation. I just wanna shout
Oh,
out this
yes.
14-year-old kid who designed all of that. He
Oh,
actually
I
animated.
saw that, yeah.
Yes, he had done an animation doing the whole, Across the Spider-Verse trailer in Legos, and they saw that and hired him to do all the Lego sequences.
That's
So this is just a
men
14-year-old kid who was
that's
using this old
insane.
computer that his dad built for him to animate that. So I thought that was really cool. So
It really, really is.
yeah, yeah.
And it's just one of the many, many
Really cool little
styles of
things in here.
animation that is
Yeah.
in this movie, but, um,
But that
yeah,
twist at the end,
deserves a lot of credit.
I love where we're gonna go, because this twist was a cool surprise, unexpected. The fact that, and really just messing with us a little bit in terms of, we think Miles went home, but then you look at the computer and you go back to that scene of the computer saying, scanning where his spider was from, and that's where it sent him. And you see Gwen out the window, and his mom says he changed his hair, and she's talking about things, and she doesn't remember what he's talking about, and this whole thing. So I love the build up to, like, the realization that, oh my gosh, he's not in his same universe. He's in a universe where his father's dead, where his uncle's still alive, where his uncle's not the Prowler, but he is. And they even have a different voice actor for that version of Miles. I think it's um the guy from Moonlight. He's a Dominican actor. So the fact
Okay.
that people are making the comparison that, in Miles's little fantasy where he says, where his mom says something about, "Oh, I think the Spider-Man, some people are saying he's Puerto Rican," and he's like, no, I think he might be Dominican." And so then they actually have a Dominican actor voicing that other version of Miles, and that's why his Morales sounds a lot,
Okay.
smoother. Especially, it makes sense for this version of Miles, who was predominantly raised by his mother and his father really not being in the picture, that he would lean more towards that. Um, so just like a little detail like that to focus on, I think is just cool enough, that the fact that you have a whole
Yeah.
different voice actor for this version of Miles, and like how is he gonna get out of the situation. But then you also have to think about little clues that Into the Spider-Verse gave you when he tied Peter B. Parker to that punching bag, and he's able to get out of it and says, you know, it's always in the hands, like, you gotta look at the hands, and then we see Miles with his hands trying to use his electricity to get out of this. So, it might be a
I mean,
similar
that
thing
is
if they're
how the movie ends, but
Yeah,
it is it's pretty shocking, really. I mean,
yeah,
expected, yes, that he was in the wrong universe, I suppose, but I wasn't necessarily thinking it was going to be immediately violent, you know, and immediately kind of, you know, you realize that, oh, wait, this universe doesn't actually have a Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's like this whole, things are on fire,
Because
there's a bunch of
this
crime, like
universe's Spider-Man was supposed to be this universe's Miles.
yes, props to new rock stars. I watched their whole big breakdown, and they actually showed that in the spots kind of flashback and explaining, the relationship between him and Miles and how they're connected, is that 42 Spider was sitting right behind that braided version of Miles, ready to, like, probably bite him, only for it to then be transported to our
Yeah.
Miles's world. So, yeah, because of that whole situation, that version of Miles never came to be and ended up being the Prowler. So just how the layers are going to kind of unfold in this next movie, I'm really excited to see and really curious to see. We didn't talk too much about Jessica Drew. I really liked her. She, for being this like pregnant
Bit,
woman in the fight in the battle, I'm
I
not
don't-
going to act like I know a ton about the comics, but once this movie was coming out, once I did see it, I did kind of look into that run of hers where she like just didn't had a hard time kind of giving up superhero life once she became pregnant. So there is a run of her actually fighting crime to make money for her future child and all of these things. So I like that they played into that. And her being the kind of trusted right hand, but also having a lot of agency in her own right to, you know, convince Miguel to take on Gwen, to train Gwen, and make that hard decision to let Miguel send her back after she failed on those missions. So, I like her as a
yeah.
character, and she's a good enough person of a character. Like they made her, have the value of a good person that you are maybe considering that she might flip in the end and be on the side of Gwen's new band that she's put together and maybe not be in Miguel's way of thinking. So I think
Yeah, and just
they set it up that she could
realize,
potentially take that turn and realize there is another way. It doesn't have to
yeah,
be,
and
you know.
that's all it is. That's
Yeah.
how you have to assume this trilogy of movies is going to end, by most spider people realizing that,
Yeah.
of course, there's another way. There's all these different ways. There's infinite different ways. If you are Spider-Man, you are Spider-Man. You don't have to have this,
Have
this,
the
this, and
certain
this.
thing. Yes. So I mean, I liked all
That's
kind of the
naturally how
yeah,
this is going to end, right?
yeah,
Of course it is. But
yeah. So
yes,
all this
I do
all the
agree with you. I
yeah.
think Jessica Drew probably turns
Yes.
onto the realization pretty quickly in that next movie.
Yes, and just all these little things just playing into this finale, like, we think Hobie's just breaking shit just to just to break shit, but he actually is, like, getting all of the items so he can build a bracelet for Gwen because he knew that that things were probably gonna go sideways.
He's
Um,
one of those great punk characters that
yes, the
don't
fact
care
that
about
he
anything yet
yes,
cares really much.
yes, the fact that he quits before, all this stuff is gonna go down with Miles, he reminds Miles, "Hey, they trapped you in this thing. Don't forget to use your palms." Like, I loved that. Like, Hobie just being, having Miles's back, was just so great to see, and so having this big band, seeing them all at the end, I was really gonna be disappointed if we didn't see, Spider-Man Noir or
Yes.
Spider-Ham kind of be a part of this team. So, even without dialogue, just seeing them be a part and Penny be a part of this team that Gwen is putting together, got me so excited. So even though it did end
Knowing
on a
they're back for
cliffhanger,
the
yes,
third
the
movie.
next one I'm really excited. And the music, oh my gosh, the soundtrack is so good. Our new kind of version of Sunflower with the hummingbird song, really great. The song in the end credits, Am I Dreaming? Like so good, and
Yeah.
it's obviously done in conjunction with the movie, because if you listen to the soundtrack, a lot of the lyrics are based off of things in the movie or using dialogue from the movie. So it was all done in conjunction, which I miss soundtracks doing, really being a part of the movie or written for a movie and not just a bunch of needle drops, and having one
Yeah.
song made for the movie. This whole soundtrack is made for this movie. So yeah.
Always tend to be better.
Mhm. Yes.
Unless you have
Really
a
loved it.
particularly good kind of jukebox musical or something like that. But
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like this does tend to have more weight and meaning to it.
Yeah.
Um, I can't speak highly enough of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
A special movie, and you know, 2/3 of a special trilogy, and we can only
Yeah.
assume the last one's going to be equally as great. I mean, it's going to look
Yes.
equally as great. You
Yes.
can't afford to do anything less.
Yeah.
So, all you in your in Sony animation department, I don't know what sort of
Eh, you are doing
craziness you're
something so
doing, but
special. You are
you really
so
are.
special. Yeah. And probably having considering this movie is coming out next year, like, having to work on these movies simultaneously to get it to be able
Yeah.
to be out just a year from they had to have been because I think this movie took about, what, 2, 3 years to make or something crazy like that because of
Well,
everything
yeah,
that
because
went
Into the
into it.
Spider-Verse was 2018, wasn't it? I
Yeah,
think
mhm.
so.
So, yes, and then we just didn't talk about his parents. I love the relationship with his parents. Obviously, they wanna support him, but they know there's things he's not telling them, and so I'm really curious to see, obviously, there's a lot of love there and respect there, but it's just difficult in terms of the secrets that he has to keep from them. I love the speech from his mother, really also speaking to that, being kind of a metaphor for not belonging, like, "Don't let people tell you you
Yeah,
don't belong in these spaces because you do and you're special," and so kind of giving that speech and then him going into that situation, I think was so perfectly placed. And then, even having that talk with Miles as Spider-Man with his dad, and him feeling comfortable talking to Spider-Man, not realizing it's his son, and probably talking to him like that because he is reminding him of his son and kind of forgetting forgetting his, his agency because he doesn't realize who he's talking to, but it's reminding him of a conversation with his son. So he just is letting his
yeah,
guard down subconsciously. So yeah, I'm really curious to see where the spot comes. And like I think there's people um suggesting that potentially Rio's gonna be the one who gets killed, so that would be really sad, so I hope he doesn't lose either of his parents in this next movie because I love their
no,
whole family
no,
dynamic.
we don't want that.
Um, yeah, so this movie was great in terms of soundtrack, animation, story, characters, and just love for Spider-Man in general. Pitch perfect.
Absolutely, I echo that entirely.
Yes.
I really, really do. Now, we did want to end the show as we always do, Janine. That is our full
Yes.
spoiler review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, of course. But yes, we did want to end the show as we always do with some fun and games. What do you have for me
Um,
today?
well, I mean,
Oh dear.
I last time I did a quiz for you for Fast and Furious, it was telling me that um this was the hardest quiz for this. And so I took a chance on it and it was not
Okay.
hard at all. So
Yes. No, you
I
didn't.
have a
It wasn't. It wasn't hard. I mean, last episode, we had fun, or I had fun with you getting your quick instant thoughts on all the
yeah,
Disney Studios
yes.
animated movies. That was something
Yes,
different.
that
So
was fun. But, I think, since we're dealing with all these Spider-Man, I think trivia of the universe of Spider-Man in the movies,
okay,
I think since this movie gave the Spider-Man movies a lot of love, I thought this would be the easiest game for us to play. So yes, hopefully this is nothing like my Fast and Furious quiz of pulling up a quiz and them telling me it's hard and you literally get every
hopefully
question
it is.
because this one is saying it is difficult Spider-Man quiz.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
not going to be any good at if it's difficult though.
Okay, well, what part-time job does Peter Parker have in Spider-Man 2? And there are multiple
He
choice.
what part-time job?
Yeah.
Eat pizza delivery.
Yes. Which comedian voices Spider-Ham in Into the Spider-Verse? So yeah, we're already starting off great.
John Mulaney.
Yes. In the Amazing Spider-Man films, Andrew Garfield played a rather emo version of Peter Parker. Which of these hobbies did he have, which he'd never really done before? A, playing guitar, B, skateboarding, or C, graffiti?
Was skateboarding, wasn't he? He was skateboarding.
Yes. What song plays during the
An
infamous
emo version of Peter
I mean,
Parker. I
that's
love that.
I I think, Spider-Man 3's version was a little more emo.
Oh, you've
Speaking of
just a bit,
Spider-Man
yeah.
3,
Oh,
what song plays during the infamous dance scene from
what
Spider-Man
song
3?
is it? I don't even know.
Okay, well, there's options. Do you wanna hear them?
Please, yeah, I don't even know what song it is.
"Walk On By" Isaac Hayes, Boogie Wonderland by
No.
Earth, Wind and Fire, or People Get Up and Drive That Funky Soul by James Brown?
Well, it's the James Brown one because
Yes.
it's not the other two. Because I know the other
You
two
know,
songs.
yes, I mean, this is your genre of music that you love. What is the name of the AI built into Peter's suit in Spider-Man: Homecoming?
Ooh, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna do this wrong. I'm gonna do this one wrong. Janet? No, it's not Janet. Is it Janet?
No.
It's
It
not
is
Janet, is it?
it is Karen.
It's Jennifer Connelly.
Yes, yes.
Karen.
Which singer has a cameo when the Green Goblin attacks the World Unity Fair in the first Spider-Man movie?
Oh God, what's her name? What's her name? What is her name? I know who it is. I can picture her. I don't know her name. What's her name? Jeannine, tell me.
I mean, I can give you multiple choice.
Okay, yes. You should.
I'm trying to
I'll
avoid
know
giving
when.
you multiple choice, but
I'll know
okay.
when I hear it.
Yes, Mary J. Blige, Erica Badu, or Macy Gray.
Oh, it's Macy Gray then. Yes.
Which nation's football shirt does Peter Parker wear for a bit in Spider-Man: Far From Home?
Oh, it's the Dutch football shirt, isn't it? Does he wear the Dutch football shirt?
Holland.
Yes,
Yeah.
Netherlands, Holland, yes.
Yeah. What is the name of this girl who is
This
Peter
girl.
Parker's neighbor in Spider-Man 2?
Oh God, what's her? It's it's a stereotypical Eastern European name. Could be anything. Erica.
If only she had body language. Ha!
Okay.
You don't get that? You don't get my clue that I'm giving you?
Well, yes, but you've said it now, so
Well, you
that
gave a guess.
I know, but
So and it was
I
wrong.
can't say it now.
Let's
That's
just say it now. Say it.
you've just I don't get the point for that one.
You don't get the point, but you can still say it.
Well, that would be Ursula.
Yes, her name is Ursula. Who voices Spider-Man Noir in Into the Spider-Verse?
Yes, Nick Cage.
Yes. Um, who is this?
Who is this? Picture ones. That is the actor, the character. It's Tony
Character.
Revolori as presumably Flash Thompson.
Yes. What is the name of the wrestler played by Randy Savage in Spider-Man 1?
Oh, let's do it. Come on. Bonesaw is ready.
Yes, I love it. Bonesaw, he's ready. So good. You're going nowhere.
You get 3 minutes.
I got you for
I
3
got you
minutes.
for
3 minutes of playtime. Good.
Eee.
So good.
Yeah, that's hurt my throat.
Which Spider-Man villain has been played or voiced by both Donald Glover and Mahershala Ali?
Well, yes. Should I
Yeah.
just go like this?
No.
Prowl. Prowly.
Yes. Complete the Spidey quote from Captain America: Civil War. Hey guys, you ever see that really old movie?
I thought there was 2 of them that he said. Oh no, from the Civil War one was
Yes.
Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
What
was
is
it Infinity War that he uses aliens?
yes. What is the
Yeah.
middle name or the middle initial of the schlubby 30-something Peter Parker in Into the Spider-Verse?
Z. No, obviously we've just been talking
Yes.
about. It's not
So
Z,
say it.
it's B.
Yes.
But I know the if you know
I
I
know you know
know.
the answer, but you gotta say it for the people so the people
Okay.
know. Which bridge does the final confrontation between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin take place on?
Which movie?
The only one where they fight on a bridge. Like,
A
technically.
bridge?
Yes. Which bridge does the final confrontation between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin take place on in the first Spider-Man movie?
That's on a bridge? You sure that's on a bridge? I'm not sure that's on a bridge.
Okay, if you say so.
Wait, is it the Brooklyn Bridge?
No, it is the Queensboro Bridge.
The Queensboro Bridge?
Yes.
I'm not sure that's on a bridge. It's been a long time since I need to rewatch Spider-Man 1,
Yes.
clearly.
What is the name of this teacher from Homecoming and Far From Home?
Is it? Yeah, it's what's his face?
So it's
Martin
Anthony
Starr.
Martin
He's
Starr.
called Martin Starr. His name's Martin Starr.
No.
Couldn't tell you what his character's called.
Yes. He is Mr. Harrington.
Mr. Harrington, okay.
Yes. And final question.
Oh,
What is the name of Spider-Man's Christmas album?
sorry.
What is the name of Spider-Man's Christmas album?
Have a spiderful Christmas.
I mean, it's kind of close, but you have multiple.
Is it
Do you want?
actually close?
Do you want the multiple choice just to close it out?
Spider-Man's Christmas album.
Yes, it's a joke in the first movie in Into the Spider-Verse. When the Chris Pine version of the character is going through his whole "I'm the one and only Spider-Man" thing, he says, "I did a Christmas album." And then when
God.
Miles goes into the office of the security who's chasing him, he hits his computer and starts playing the Christmas album. And he's like, "What? He has a great voice."
Have a spidery Christmas.
Do you want the multiple choice or is that your guess?
That's my guess.
Okay, that is wrong. It is A Very Spidey Christmas.
That's close enough. I'm happy
Okay.
with that.
You did all right.
I'm not too disturbed by that performance, to be honest with you.
You did okay.
Yes, there we go. Spider things, spidery spidering.
Spidey
Not
things,
a good movie.
Spider things.
Spider things do whatever spider things do. Not a good movie for those with arachnophobia.
Yes.
Or fear of masks, which I don't know what the actual kind of phobia term is.
Yeah, I
For
don't
someone
know.
that's fear of masks. Maskophobia, perhaps? Probably not. I really don't know. Prostheticophobia. It might be. I really don't know. Anyway, good show.
Yes.
Good show today on Monday Madness. Nice to be back after last week not being here, talking across the Spiderverse, all those fun What's Up topics, the trailers, Secret Invasion, Poor Things, Sympathy for the Devil, my hatred of Chris Nolan, even though it's not actually hatred, our unfortunate dilemmas with the Flash movie.
Yeah.
And what else did we talk about? Bill Skarsgård. We also talked about Bill Skarsgård. We had some fun, as we always do on Monday Madness. Jeannine, it is not the only show we have on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed, nor is it the only thing you can find on this YouTube channel, is it?
No, we have some fun things on the channel. Morgan has his physical media collection videos. Those are always fun to check out. We do all kinds of other stuff on here. I had a run of fun Scream content. I'm actually working on another Scream video, doing all the rankings of all the Scream things. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So please check out, we do watch along. So please check out the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel in its entirety. And also we have our Wednesday show Morgan hasn't seen, where I force Morgan to watch things he hasn't seen. Funny enough, we are talking bad superhero movies with Fringe DC. So that's been a fun series for sure. We are talking Catwoman this week. So that's going to be interesting. And then check out our Classic Films podcast. It's a Wonderful Podcast. We give love to those old forgotten movies.
Not always forgotten.
Not always forgotten,
just
but
sometimes.
sometimes, but movies that do deserve some more love and do deserve a bit of a spotlight. So, we always advocate for old movies, classic films, and that's the show to check out if you are the same. So please check out It's a Wonderful Podcast every Friday. Morgan Hasn't Seen every Wednesday, and of course Monday Madness and all of the fun things on the It's a Wonderful Podcast channel and the podcast feed.
Yeah, subscribe, ding the notification bell on this YouTube channel if you are watching, and subscribe, of course, to this podcast feed. Wherever you are listening on all major podcast platforms, we have things scrolling down at the bottom of the screen as well. If you are watching on YouTube, if you would like to support us on Patreon or donate in any way, there are links in the description to go and do that, because we can't do what we do without that generous support. We love all our patrons dearly, and those links are there if you would like to support us in that way. You can, of course, just find us on social media, on Twitter at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on Twitter at The Purple Don with a 3 instead of the E in there, because, Jeannine.
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram and TikTok at The Purple Don. All your spider-loving things aware.
You can find me at Jeannine Bean _ on Twitter, Jeannine Bean on Instagram and TikTok. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, the link has been scrolling by, or check the description, or just search It's a Wonderful Podcast on teespring.com. There's some really fun designs over there, some Stranger Things designs, all the logos for all of our shows. And if you want to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com.
Well, there we go. I do think there is only one thing left to do, and impressions. Impressions. Is there any good impressions to be had from
none at all.
across the Spiderverse?
Perhaps, no, don't do this to me.
Do whatever you want, Jeannine. It's fine. I won't be mean today. 3, 2, 1. Boom! So he's ready. I know you wanted to do it anyway, so it's fine.
I know.
You can't help yourself, can you?
Glad there.
You just can't help yourself. Bye.